Hi, good evening everybody. In this video, we're going to take a look at my unsung heroes of each decade that were underrated. Coming up. All right, folks, let's get on it. Got a few videos to make, and I'll show you the clip and the request, because bit of a long one, but let's take a look at it. Okay. Shoutout goes to John Francis. Hi, Wayne. I only started watching hockey, more specifically the Sabres, when I moved to Buffalo in 2012. With that timeline, I've only really experienced these Sabres lean years. John, or beyond lean at this point. We need some winning seasons. I have not had too much of an opportunity to become fond of some of the under-radar guys because they don't stick around long enough. So my question and video idea for you are, what Sabres were your favorite unsung heroes, cult favorites, guys who you loved for how they played or their effort, but not necessarily a star player? Thanks, Wayne. Love the videos. All right, thanks, John, for that. And what I have done here is I'm going to give you one from each decade, okay? These are my favorite players that I believe were very underrated during their careers and their time in Buffalo. I mean, some old-time fans might say maybe they weren't. They were in the history books, you know? Like, there's just guys that I think were very underrated for what they did for this franchise and what they brought. So we're gonna start with the 70s, and we'll work our way into the current. And I got another fly in here, guys. Okay, so let's work into the 70s. Here we go. And for me, Bill Haight is probably the most underrated Sabre of the 1970s in my books. I just think that this guy, his number should be retired. I think there's all sorts of recognition he never got for what he brought to the table. This was one hell of a steady defenseman who seemed to be mistake-free. He just seemed like, I mean, if you look at his plus-minus, plus 46, plus 39, 39, 36, then he actually has a -4 in 40 games, comes right back the next year, plus 36, you know, and we can go on and on about this guy. He was just such a steady defenseman. It's one of those jerseys I got to get eventually, is a Bill Haight jersey. Absolutely. Bill Haight was one of my favorite defensemen of all time. If you were to ask me my all-time favorite Buffalo Sabres defenseman, I would look you in the eye and say Bill Haight. That's just me. And yeah, Schoenfeld and Korab and Guverman, all these guys were really good. They were in their time. But Bill Haight, my friends, was just, he was mistake-free. It just seemed like he was mistake-free. I can't recall this guy ever making a mistake. I know I'm mistaken saying that, but I just don't have a memory of it. So for the 1970s, Bill Haight comes in. All right, here we go into the 1980s. Here we go. And I got Mike Ramsey. Yep, I got another blue liner, part of the Miracle on Ice team in 1980. And he came right into the NHL and fit in right away with Scotty Bowman's defensive system in Buffalo. And he was nothing but steady his whole career. He really was. Another one, it took him to 1993-94 before he was actually in the minus and the plus-minus. I mean, he was just such a steady defenseman. And it's another Buffalo Sabre. I think we should have his number retired. But that, again, is just me. I think Mike Ramsey doesn't get enough respect for what he brought to Buffalo all those years ago. The kids don't know him today, and it's wrong. It really is wrong. The kids don't know these guys. Like, some of them don't know Bill Haight and, you know, Mike Ramsey. Some just don't know him. And for me, that's you know, doesn't sit well with me. All right, now we're going to get into the more modern. That takes care of the 70s and 80s. Well, let's go into the 90s. Here we go. And I got Donald Odette as my unsung hero in the 1990s. I thought Odette, if you look at his seasons, you know, 31 goals, 29, 24, 28, 24. And if you look, he had the other two, forget the LA seasons, we won't go there. But if you look before 98 and you look at the 12-goal season, that was in 23 games. You look at the other 12-goal season, that was in 44 games. This guy would have got 20 goals, 20 to 25 goals every single year as a Buffalo Sabre. You know, even the 24 goals, he only played 46 games. I can go on and on about Donald Odette. I thought he was just a little overshadowed, of course, because we had guys like McGillney and LaFontaine. And he just kind of was, for me, one of those unsung heroes. So Donald Odette, I don't want to forget about, you know. I don't want to forget him. Wasn't a big guy, 5'8", and his numbers in junior were insane. You know, they were great numbers, and I just think that Buffalo here really had another really good one here that that showed up. You know, that showed up, and it's kind of forgotten for me. It's kind of a forgotten Buffalo Sabre. So as we move along, now we are into the 2000s. Here we go. And I got Maxima Finneganoff for the 2000s. And Max's numbers weren't bad. They weren't bad. Look, he had 1, 2, 3. He had four 20-goal seasons, as you can see. And he painfully had some other seasons where it just seemed like nothing would go right. But let's keep in mind, 3 seasons, 3 of those 20-goal seasons were as Sabres. So let's back up from 08-09. I didn't notice the Thrashers there, if I mentioned that. So let's go from 08-09 back. And you can see 3 20-goal seasons in Buffalo. He did have that 73-point season in 05-06, 06-07. Also, pretty good season. But overall, I think Max, you know, if we could just watch him one more time, we'd all jump at that opportunity. Max Finneganoff was the most exciting Buffalo Sabre of that era. He really was, with his speed and everything. He really was. It's just he couldn't close. He was not a closer, this guy. This guy had the speed, the excitement. I'd be at those games in Buffalo and people be coming out of their chairs and be watching this guy. But my goodness, you know, when they got going, the Sabres, and we were going full blast with the fast team that we had, and Finneganoff was going crazy too, tucking his shirt in both sides. I mean, there's so many things about a Finneganoff I'll remember. It's just that the one thing that stands out on a negative is that he couldn't close. He just wasn't a closer, this guy. He wasn't a closer. Or else this guy could have been like a 40, 50 goal guy. He was so talented, you know, with his speed in his hands. Just didn't have the gifted ability to close deals out. But I still think he was underrated for what he brought to the table, and maybe a forgotten Sabre a little too soon. You know, a lot of good memories for me with the Finneganoff. I remember going to those playoff games in Buffalo in 06, guys, and I remember the posters y'all made saying, "I win again off," and all that. It used to be way up in the high blue area, like way, way, way up on top. And I'd be looking and seeing, "I win again off," and good times, you know, just good times. We should have won a cup with that team. Okay, now, during the tank era, yeah, there was an unsung hero, so here it is. I got Tyler Ennis, folks. I got Tyler Ennis as our unsung hero during those years. This guy was the only guy to actually score 20 goals in both tank seasons. And if you take a look, I mean, in 2014-15, he had 20 goals. In 13-14, he had 21 goals. In both tank seasons, he was the only Buffalo Sabre to reach 20 goals and lead the team. And I think, though, Hodgson had led the team in front of him in 14, if I'm right. I'm going off the cuff, though, thinking this. And 2010-2011, again, another 20-goal season. And, of course, in the 11-12 season, he played 48 games, 15 goals, you know? And in 2012-2013, 10 goals in 47 games. Like, considering what we were going through as a franchise, those were big numbers, you know? They were. So Tyler Ennis has to get the nod from this guy. And yeah, another small guy. But he sure as heck really put it together in a few of those seasons. And I was probably, because I was pulling for the tank, I was probably cursing him those seasons. I probably was. I really didn't want the Sabres to do anything for those seasons. I wanted to get Connor McDavid because I knew that would be a game changer forever for us as a fans. We had to try to get Connor McDavid. I can understand that, but now looking back, and I seen the disaster it caused in a rift in our franchise, in our culture. Dead against tanking. No, never again will I cheer for a tank. Never. I was wrong. I was dead wrong going for those tanks. Looking back, Now, if we would have got Mario Lemieux like Pittsburgh did, I'd be saying it was genius we did it, right? But I mean, no, it wasn't worth it. Buffalo fans, no, don't encourage any kind of losing. Don't. We don't want any kind of losing, so we'll let that be. We'll let that be where that stands. All right. So that's it. That's it for this one. I got one more coming your way. See you in that one.